Welcome back to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm Brad Williams. Today I'm thrilled to sit down with drummer, singer, songwriter, and band leader Alwyn Robinson. Alwyn grew up in Marshall, which is in East Texas, spent formative years studying and gigging around Boulder, Colorado, and now calls Brooklyn, New York his home, where that scene's relentless creativity has helped shape his voice on and off the kit. Alwyn's just about to release a beautiful new album called Marshall, dropping this Friday, November 14th. It's his personal take on Americana, acoustic at the core, rich with textures and vocal layers, and it's co-crafted with Bridget Carney from Lake Street Dive and Andrew Ibanez. You'll even hear his elegant reimagining of one of my favorite songs, Gentle on My Mind, weaving in Brazilian-inspired harmony and groove while still honoring the heart of the song. The entire album feels like where he's from, but also where he's headed, rooted, spacious, and deeply musical. We talk about process versus product, grief and growth, leading from the drum chair, and how a life in East Texas, Boulder, and Brooklyn all show up in the music. I want to thank Alwyn for this incredible conversation, and congrats on the new album, Marshall, out November 14th. I'd just like to thank everyone for listening and continuing to follow and subscribe to the Bandwich Tapes. Please spread the word and tell someone about the show. Now let's get into it. Here's my conversation with the amazing Alwyn Robinson. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you all for having me, man.
Yes, absolutely. I've been such a fan from afar for quite a while, and it's fun to finally get to sit down and have a conversation with you. I'm such a fan of the way you play and your musicianship, how you listen and respond to the people on stage around you. It's very evident you have good ears when you play, so thank you for that.
Oh, man, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
As we're recording this, I think last week you just played the big Halloween show with Billy Strings. Is that right?
Yeah. I am still buzzing and on somewhat of a crazy what the hell just happened moment. I did Halloween with Billy Strings, and he had some amazing special guests. And then I did a few songs the second night with him, but the primary show I did was the Halloween show. You know, he had Chris Jacobs playing guitar, who's incredible as a guest. He had Corey Henry, amazing string trio performing, and then his band playing. Those cats are really tight. It was incredible. I don't even know I'm still trying to process how to exactly articulate what just happened.
I think what you just said is perfect. There is no explanation to it. Every year I think, well, how's he going to top what he did last year? And then he always manages a way to do it. And this year the bar was set really, really high. I mean, you guys sounded great. I've just seen some videos on YouTube of it. My buddy he watched the show, I think live, and man, you're just driving the bus back there, man. You sound so good.
Thank you. It's funny. I've known Billy I played shows with Billy before anyone knew who Billy was. You know, I did a show with him at Hartford Fest, and I think that's in Indiana, like 12 years ago. We did like an electric set, and then I've played like a couple things here and there with him. I've crossed paths with him multiple times. And so I have a comfort with him, but last week was the first time leading up to the show where it's the first time in a very long time where I was genuinely nervous about a performance. I was like actually waking up and having to do breathing exercises, doing some meditative work. I was extremely anxious.
Yeah.
But I've never played, seeing the whole operation firsthand and seeing the preparation that this guy puts in and his whole crew and his band, it makes the pressure feel a lot higher, but it makes it easy to perform also because then you're super prepared.
Yeah.
Preparing at such a high level everyone is putting in the work, and so all the anxieties and stuff can kind of subside because you know that everyone on this stage is super prepared, and it makes it feel really comfortable.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine too that, both of you going off and working in your respective bands and playing with different people, and then you come back together after a period of time of not playing, there's just more depth to both of your pocket, the way you play. I imagine that it's the experience of playing together is just getting better and better as you both mature as musicians, as we all try to do, right?
Yeah. And a lot of that for me, is well put. Is we have our own respective worlds that we play in, and a lot of the maturity that I have started to observe in myself of with playing at least um, has been because I've been doing more of my solo work,
Mm-hmm.
and that has led me to a respect for other artists as frontmen and the situation that I'm in with Leftover Salmon and like what those cats have done and paved the way for. It makes me respect the process of a musician and musicianship so much deeper, which has allowed me to put that into my playing and into my process of just a musician and an artist. It's so different when you're doing it on your own, and it makes you really try to practice being the best musician that you can be and carrying that to the stage with anyone that you play with.
Yeah, I would say that any theme that's come up the most on this podcast, talking with musicians, is the idea of process, and that process versus product, and that if the process isn't established and refined and constantly improved, the product is never going to be the best that it can be, no matter what that product is, right? Whether that's your music, it's your organization, your songwriting, any piece of that, the product is a result of the process that leads to it.
Yeah, and a process that I work on and have been working on consistently and continuously over the past maybe like 6 or 7 years is the process of self, and really taking care of myself and really taking care of love and processing things such as grief, how to process emotions, how to really feel balanced, because the product of myself can only show up to the highest regard if I'm taking care of myself and really really paying attention to how I feel and how my body feels. Am I exercising? Am I really checking in with how I am treating other people, how I'm treating myself? And when I started to use that process and put it towards the product of the musicianship, everything just feels so much easier.
Yeah.
Everything feels so much more fluid. And a process that got me into that was the process of grief. I've lost a couple of really close friends over the past 10 years, and it really had made me have to evaluate, like, what am I doing? Like, what is my purpose? And I think the process of taking care of yourself and really checking in with yourself will lead to a better product of self, which in return, everything that you do will have a better quality of work and a better quality of sustainability and
Yeah.
longevity. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like the process is something that you have to love, and it's bigger than the process of musicianship. Like anything with music is all because of the process of self. So I really nurture that and pay attention to that as closely as I can.
Don't know which way that all the rubble's gonna fall, but I'll keep carrying on. Don't know which way that all my troubles gonna go, but I'll keep carrying on. So I walk, I run, I stumble, just is to find my truth. I keep on asking for forgiveness for the sins I choose to take alongside of this journey, till they don't fall through anymore.
You know, I think that I love that idea of taking time to grieve. I think, we're all so busy now, and I think that we have to stop and allow ourselves to be sad. It's okay. It's going
Yeah.
to, the light at the end of that is going to be brighter if we allow the darkness to be there for a little bit, and that's okay. And I think the way you address that and the way you're handling that's so powerful, and to allow, it just allows you to be fully present in whatever situation you're in.
Mm-hmm. And when you're present, then you can perform well, you can engage well, you can listen better, you can contribute better in all facets of those words. So I think it's really important for us to step outside of our work life and our busyness, which, when I was younger, I was like, I want to be busy. I want to be playing all the time. And, a little time progresses and I'm like, actually, I want to be still and present. And that stillness and that presence can allow you to contribute in such a bigger way with your work or with your relationships or anything. So you have to allow yourself to be sad. You have to allow yourself to be happy, because with things being the way that they are, where there's so much turmoil, as there always has been, but with it being so amplified because of the digital world, it's hard to say that I'm happy. We're so stuck with being like, oh man, everything's so bad. So you get attached to that, but you have to allow yourself to feel it all and to be happy, to be joyous, to celebrate yourself. It's all those feelings contribute to what you do in your everyday life.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I couldn't agree with you more. That's so good. So I'd love to find out how it all started for you. What, first of all, where are you from, and how did music come into your life, or was it? It was inevitable that it was just going to happen.
I'm from Marshall, Texas. It's a really, really small town in northeast Texas. It's right across the border from Shreveport, Louisiana, for any graphical reference, because no one ever knows where Marshall is.
I lived in Lafayette for 2 years, so I know Louisiana pretty well. So yeah,
my family's from Louisiana. My mom's from Orleans and my dad's from Alexandria. So
okay.
I mean, where my family's from, and my parents are actually getting ready to move to Lafayette.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm from East Texas. My dad is a classically trained musician. He's in orchestras, the wind ensembles, and he's also an incredible educator. And my mother is a teacher as well, and so I grew up not on my mom with the, not necessarily pressure, but with the influence of music internally from my mother, being from New Orleans, and externally from my dad, who was a musician. And he was also a drill sergeant in the military. So so my teachings came from someone who was well studied and also well executed in everything that they did with their military experience. And so I was playing, and my older brothers played as well. And so I've been playing music since I was, since I can remember life. And then I started playing professionally. My first professional gig I was like 11 or 12, where I actually got compensated for performing. And I grew up studying classical repertoire. So I didn't really get into drum set and doing like that, the band sort of thing, until maybe middle school, high school, when I was in a garage band with my friends. Most of my education in music comes from, the academic side of things, doing these band auditions, doing all the competitions that the Texas Music Education Society, puts on every year. And that was like kind of the root of everything for me.
Was your first plan to go? So let me back up and say I did the same thing. So I was a classical percussion major. That's kind of the path I was going to go. I was just completely bought into it. Eventually became a drum set player, then became a bass player. But I'm so grateful for that time studying classical music. As we were just talking about process, right? Learning how to learn is so important, and
Yeah.
it's going to make you a better musician knowing that. When you first started out, what did you think you were wanting to do with music?
I thought that I was gonna be a band director when initially, like when I was young, maybe like in my teens, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna get really good at this marimba repertoire. I'm going to go to college, get a degree, and really pursue the academic route. And I literally was just kind of following the footsteps of I was seeing that what my dad was doing. And then when I got to college, I went to Texas Tech in West Texas. I was doing the classical program, but I was also, to make money, I was gigging playing drums. And that kind of started to shift where I saw myself going. I was like, oh, this is fun. And this is immediate payments. And I find myself to really thrive in that environment of playing with bands. And so when I was like 18, I really started to dig into getting really good at drum set. And so I would do all my classical stuff and, practice that for my lessons and for my performance recitals. And then I would go gig. And then I would practice drum set for hours. And I just naturally had an affinity to practice drum set more than the classical stuff. So I was like, all right, let me just get through school, and then I will put in the chops and the experience of being a gigging musician and try to see where that goes.
Yeah. Who were some of those drum set players that you were gravitating toward as a listener when you were learning to play?
One of my jazz teachers really hammered Philly Joe Jones in my ear. It was and I naturally gravitated towards him as well, obviously because of his playing. Max Roach, because of his compositions, not just because of who he was as a player, but what he stood for as a person, and also the way he wrote and his albums as a band leader. Art Blakey, Elvin Jones, some of the classical jazz greats.
Yeah.
My dad was obsessed with Buddy Rich, so of course I was for chops and the showmanship of it all. So I was really into him. And then as time progressed and I started to listen to more alternative music and rock and that sort of thing, I became obsessed with Levon Helm.
Oh yeah.
Don Henley, who is an incredible drummer, who's from East Texas and is an incredible songwriter, vocalist, drummer. Phil Collins. I started to really dive into the drummers who were musicians.
And all three of them are singers. And I think there's something to be said about drummers that also sing, that understand how to get out of the way, in the tune. Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that you mentioned all three of them, because I think they all have a similar approach of not distracting from the tune.
Exactly. And then my all-time favorite, who also is from the same region where I grew up in, that I started to really dig into in my early 20s, is Brian Blade.
Oh man.
To this day, I argue this every time I get the opportunity to argue with someone about music. He's the best musician on the planet.
I think I agree with you.
His touch, his musicianship, his ability to stay out of the way but also be present, his personality, his energy, it's unmatched.
To me, watching him play, he plays every song like it's the last song he's ever going to get to play, and I love that about him.
Yes, there's such a delicate intensity with that guy that I admire deeply. I
Yeah.
watch Brian Blade YouTube videos, if not daily, every other day.
Yeah.
I use these little Instagram clips. He is my favorite. So he is probably my biggest influence and my biggest aspiration to what I want to accomplish as a musician.
Yeah, because he's, not only is an incredible sideman, playing in a band, but he's also he's a good frontman. He has his own thing. He
Yep.
leads his own band. He writes music. Yeah, I see some parallels with that with you and him. And yeah, what an incredible North Star to have in somebody like him, right?
It's the ultimate guide. And, there's other cats too, like Nate Smith is
Oh, I just saw him. I live in St. Louis. I just saw him here. I went to see him a couple months ago, and I saw him with Pat Metheny a few years ago. But seeing him with Kiefer and cartoons, and I,
he's
I just couldn't sit still. I just couldn't believe he's just getting better and better too, right?
yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. And that guy is like, he's writing. I don't know how he's playing with all these different musicians and how he has a schedule for that, but he's doing it. I've never met him, but from his energy that he puts out that I've seen online, it seems like he is also an amazing person. He is right up there with Brian Blade for me. He's like he's taking what the blueprint that Brian Blade has set. He is grabbing that and going to like the next level. He's evolving an already very high standard of musicianship.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, those two guys are just excuse me. Yeah, they are just pushing it forward and just bringing. I mean, the drums were always in the they were in the mainstream, but it's like, I mean, it's playing at a really and writing at a really high level and just bringing it more accessible to more and more people.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's amazing. So those are some of my big influences as a drummer, as a drum set player. Those are some of the primary cats that I really admire, and there's so many others, but the emphasis on them is really high.
Yeah. So after Texas Tech, did you? Before we were recording, you said you moved from Colorado. Did you go there after college?
Yeah, so I went to the graduate program, music program for percussion at University of Colorado. I tried that for a year doing the percussion thing, and then I switched to the jazz program. And I was doing that for a couple of years, and then a couple of years into that, I got asked to audition for this band, Leftover Salmon, that I'm currently in and have been in for 12 years now. And that is what led me to move to New York, is because I got this touring gig. I was doing it for a year, and I met this guy, and I can't remember this drummer's name for the life of me. He was an amazing drummer, and I was playing at a festival in Niwot, Colorado, and he was talking to me, and he was like, "Man, I really admire what you're doing." He was like, "You need to move to a place to really push yourself to the next level, to where you're not going to be a big fish in a small pond." He's like, "Colorado, you'll be able to work as much as you want. You'll be able to have your way." He's like, "You need to go somewhere where you're not going to have your way, where you're really going to have to challenge your musicianship. You're going to have to challenge your character." And he's like, he didn't specify moving to New York. He was just like, "You're just going to have to go somewhere else." And so I started to figure out how to get to New York. So the only place I could think of that I really wanted to live that would offer that in the capacity that worked for me would be New York.
Yeah. And now you're in Brooklyn, which we were talking before we got on here that, as I was saying to you, there are cities in the U.S. that don't have the music scene that just Brooklyn has these days. It's incredible, just the depth of talent in that part of New York City. It's amazing.
Oh, it's crazy. And I was fortunate with not only my living situation, but my exposure to that right off the bat. My first roommate, which the apartment I'm sitting in was the apartment that I started subletting 12 years ago, the person who was living here as my roommate is this incredible artist, Rachel Price, who is the lead vocalist for Lake Street Dive.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I move in, I come to Brooklyn, don't know what to expect, and my roommate is one of the best musicians
Holy
in
cow.
the city. So I'm sitting in my bedroom, and Rachel would be getting ready in the mornings or afternoons or whatever, and she's singing like just whatever in the shower, and I could hear it through the apartment, and I'm just like, whoa, this is the level of talent out here. And at the time, Lake Street was, they were known, but they were starting to climb. And to experience that as my first introduction to the music scene in New York, it just really lit a fire under my ass of like, oh, this is what people are doing. Like, she's trying to climb in this atmosphere. Like, she should be at the top of the totem pole, but
Yeah.
person's in here working and trying to like get something going. That's what I have to do. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
or like these people out here are really getting after it. And so for that to be my first experience, and then getting introduced to her bandmates with Bridget Carney, who is a dear friend of mine, and then the bassist in Lake Street and one of the founding members, I got fortunate and blessed with my initial dive into New York. That was the basis for me, was living with someone who was killer, and then getting to meet that environment and that scene, and really having to challenge myself immediately.
Yeah. And the thing I would say too about her, and I see it and hear it in you, and I think what is happening, I mean, maybe it's a result of, I don't know if it's from streaming music where everything is so accessible now musically. You can go out and listen to whatever you want, whenever you want to listen to it. I think the concept of genres or different styles of music don't exist as much now as they did 20 years ago. I think players and singers just want to do every kind of music that they can, and they don't stay in one spot as much as they did maybe when I was coming up as a musician.
Yeah, and a lot of that cross exposure and like experimentation with diving into other worlds is because the world is becoming so much smaller due to these platforms that we have now with social media. Like, you're able to access, and the internet in general, like you're able to access the world a lot easier, and other artists are able to integrate without actually having to meet. And the control, in a sense, of being an artist is getting a lot more in the hands of the artist. Labels aren't controlling your direction as much anymore, because you can be independent and have a sustainable career not going that route. And so it creates this atmosphere of, I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
I can find my audience a lot easier that will accept that because of these tools, these new tools, and people are open to that and accepting of that. And you don't have to stay so one dimensional, because it's not a radio play game anymore. It's not, you have to cater to this musical world to make it. It's like, no, you can be a big thief and write these crazy like rock songs that have all kinds of influence, and you can do that. Or you can be a Lake Street Dive and have pop, jazz, blues, rock, soul inspiration, and do that. Or you can be a Lorraine, which is this incredible experimental rock group in New York, Brooklyn, Taja Cheek, and you can go that route and have a career doing it. Like, there's just so many more avenues to how you can make it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it is such it's such a time, such an incredible time for creatives and for people to be writing and performing music. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
How did that gig with Leftover Salmon come your way? How did you get in that band?
Yeah, so when I was at CU, there was a faculty recital, and one of the professors was doing a PhD thesis performance on roots music. And the band that he hired was a lot of the faculty members at CU and a couple of people that went to CU. And one of the people that was on the gig was Greg Garrison, who was the bassist in Leftover Salmon. And I got asked to sub for the drum professor because of some other obligation that he had. And so I met Greg on that gig. And this was like in January of 2013 or 14. And then 6 months later, he shoots me an email and was like, hey, there's this band that I tour with that's looking for a drummer. The drummer that they've had is moving on to do a different thing. Would you want to come audition? And I was like, sure. Like, I had no idea who these guys were. I had no idea about that scene. I was completely green to that. And, I was just like, sure, why not? Like, why not go see what this is about? So I went and played with him at the Aggie Theater in Fort Collins and learned some songs, sat in with them. And they called me like a week or two later and like, hey, we're doing this string of shows in these festivals. Would you want to come? We'd love to have you come join. And I was like, sure. And so I did the summer tour with them and then turned it down. At the end of the summer, I was like, actually, I don't think I can do this. I need to finish my graduate program. And because the graduate program was saying that I wasn't allowed to go on the road and do school, typical, the political side of academics.
Yeah.
And I thought about, I turned them down and I was like, I can't do it. Had a good time, whatever. And then I like sat on it for like a couple weeks and I was like, wait a minute. These guys are an established touring act. They have their calendar dates for the next 6 months. When am I going to get an opportunity to really see what this world is about? And if I want to do this, like actually do it in this capacity. So I dropped out of graduate school and went on the road with him. And the rest is
Yeah.
what it is. And it's been great. It's been the craziest ride of experience that I've been on to date. And it's been one of the best academic learning experiences I have had musically to date.
Just as good as his word. It takes twice as long to build bridges you've burned, and there's hurt you can cause. Time alone cannot heal. Keep your nose on the grindstone and have the peace. Harry, I've been trying, I just can't catch a break. It's too much in this world, I can't seem to shake. Oh, I remember your words, Lord, they bring me to tears. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze. Keep your nose on the grindstone and not the breeze.
I'd love to know, where you've seen growth personally as a musician since you've been with that group.
Yeah. So the growth for me primarily has been around learning how to contribute to an organization and and learning how to contribute to an organization that prior to me joining, they've been around for like 25 years.
Yeah.
Here I am, this 24-year-old. I'm around these grown men who have families. You know, they've been doing this for a long time. And my first couple years, it was just, I was like, all right, I was just trying to stay as far back and easily manageable as humanly possible. I was like, I'm just going to learn their music. I'm going to play my part, which is an important step to learn how to do as a musician. It's like, no, I'm not joining and I'm all of a sudden going to be like, I'm in charge, or this is my playing is what you guys should follow. I just had to learn the structure of how they operate. I had to learn like what my role is, which developed in a large sense of maturity for me. I had to learn how to support, and I had to learn how to not try to put my voice as the forefront. I just learned how this stuff works. And then on top of that, learning how to tour, learning how to be on time. I never had to worry about learning how to be on time, but just learning how to be a professional in this hippie jam band world where a lot of people think that it's just like this love free for all thing, but it's like, no, this is a job.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn how to travel. I had to learn how to sleep. I had to learn how to play night after night for weeks on end. And then as time progressed and I got comfortable with their catalog, like 5 years in, I had to learn how to contribute differently. Like I started to really learn how to express myself and be myself musically and not be afraid to shy away from that. And they have always been so accepting of letting me do what it is I do. They've never told me how to play. They have never once been like, I need you to listen to this record that we recorded and sound like this guy. They were just like, here's the music, play the music how it fits you. And so that created an immense amount of growth of freedom and really learning what my sound is and learning how my sound can contribute to this sound and how to make it sound better and make it sound comfortable for them and comfortable for their audience as well. And that was one of the biggest learning curves for me as a musician. And it started to open up new avenues of songwriting for me, of singing. Like that's when I really started to dive into like singing, because I wanted to contribute differently with these guys. I didn't just want to be a drummer. I wanted to be a musician. So it opened up all of that stuff within the capacity of also learning how to tour and how to be a traveling artist and be away from home and have all this crazy stuff going on with like time, like, you know, losing sense of time, but trying to be grounded. It really opened all of that stuff up.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that, I mean, there's a whole lot of personal growth going on there in real time and a lot of different pieces of it all happening at the same time. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, I grew up in this very structured realm. And, you know, I grew up very academic. Everything was very by the book. Everything was so calculated. And then I get thrown into this environment where it's like, screw all of those calculations. Like none of that matters.
Yeah.
It matters, but it doesn't. Like you have freedom. And so I'm 24 years old and I'm still adjusting to that. I'm like, I have photos of when I first joined. You know, I had a buzz cut, everything was super tight. I was like so like by the book. And then it was a big adjustment to the freedoms of like, oh, the schools don't tell me what to do anymore, or I'm not in a playing environment where there's someone telling me to sound this way or sound that way. I'm actually just able to do whatever I want. And that was a huge, huge learning responsibility that I had to adjust to.
Yeah. Was their audience receptive to your arrival in the band? Because I can't remember who was the drummer before that, but he'd been there for a little bit, right?
Jose was the drummer before. Sorry, I'm blanking on Jose's last name. Incredible drummer, really nice guy, but he was there for quite some time. I think the switch, everyone was very accepting of my coming into that role and very excited and I've met a lot of people along the way and become friends with a lot of people through that environment.
Yeah.
And yeah, no one really, I think it's easier for the drummer in that world to kind of change roles because of just the support that people have for that band isn't based on like the members,
Yeah.
unless the front guys, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in the back, so it was easier for me just to kind of transition in and not feel like I had big shoes to fill, and I never would put that pressure on myself of feeling like I have to fill somebody else's role, because I joined in thinking like, oh, I'm going to do, this is the role that I'm put in, so I'm going to do the best of my ability.
I just think there's this beautiful, this serendipity that, you grow up in East Texas, your family's from Louisiana, but then you go and study classical music and you're doing jazz and you're listening to you're absorbing all of this different music that's essentially setting you up for success to go into an ensemble like this and to be able to understand how to approach all of this different music, because that's what you've been hearing and what you've been doing basically your entire life.
Yeah, and I had no preconceived notion of what to expect because I didn't follow that scene closely. So nothing came to me with this big element of like surprise or like I was never starstruck. I was never any of that stuff with these artists that we've played, these worlds that we were diving into, because I had no expectations.
Yeah.
Which helps. I met, funny story, I met Bill Kreutzmann, the drummer of the Grateful Dead, is a legend in his own right, and had no idea who he was. And had no idea, like, he made a comment to me about, liking my playing, and when he sat in with the band, and I was just like, oh, cool, this, like, great, thank you, man. And I wasn't, like, I had no expectations and no knowledge, so that actually really helped, too, because I wasn't diving into, like, it'd be different if I was joining a band that was in the neo soul scene with Erykah Badu and like those are coming or hanging around.
Right.
I was like, oh no, what play? I just was so green that it actually allowed me to just fully try to be myself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. That's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what, and I know you're focusing on your own thing, which is amazing. Tell me what your next focus is. What are you working on these days?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the process of getting ready to release an album next week entitled Marshall, which is where I'm from. And it's my interpretation of Americana. It's what Americana means to me. It's what Americana sounds like to me. And it's an encompassing of all those different styles and genres that I've been playing and listening to all my life is in this body of work. I did a lot of the compositions and arranging with Bridget Carney from Lake Street Dive. She co-produced the album as well as my friend Andrew Ibanez, who I met in college. And I'm putting a lot of emphasis on working towards that and trying to develop my sound and figure out who I am as a front person. And then in leading forward, that's setting up a foundation for me to really get comfortable with trying to collaborate with these other artists that I've met along the way. And, he doesn't know this yet, but I would love to write some stuff for Billy. I would love to get him featured on something that I'm working on next year. I've also started to start outlining what the future of my solo career is going to look like, as far as what sound do I want to accomplish, or how do I want to get better at singing and drumming, and trying to just work on the musicianship of being a front person. How am I going to get better at leading these rehearsals? This album process has started to open up other things that I have to question and become better at, that is what I look forward to working on. How to be a better front person, how to run rehearsals, how to market myself, how to get comfortable showing my personality online, how to still try to work on my craft as a drummer while also trying to work on my craft as a singer and composer. And that's the future for me. That's what I look forward to the most, is those learning steps. That's what I'm really looking forward to working on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's so much just amazing information in that, and there's a lot of pieces to that, right? Yeah, as a drummer, as a singer, as a performer, as a running your brand, as a because it's a different game now, right? You have to have a presence online. I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces to this to run the organization that is your music career, right?
Yeah, and you have to have a brand. You have to have artists have to reinvent themselves. It feels like at a much quicker clip than people did back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to reinvent your brand in the 70s and 80s for years. You could be this person for a longer period of time, and now the rate at which people receive information and want new information because they're bored with the information that they just received is just so much faster. So you just see artists recreating themselves very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm getting comfortable with, and just getting comfortable with giving yourself. I'm always told that, oh, you should show your personality more and this and that. It's like the secrecy of being an artist, and that the way in which I thrive which is having a little elusiveness and not really being present. I can't do that. Like, you have to, if you want people to know who you are, you got to put yourself out there, which doesn't take away from me practicing music and stuff, but it's a big practice in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it's striking that balance of being honest as an artist, but being vulnerable as an artist, but then some protection of your own self identity. There's a delicate dance to make all of that happen simultaneously.
Oh yeah, huge delicate dance. And work, but good work. And it's the fun thing is you can do it how you want to do it. You just got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about this album. I'm so excited about number one, what's the release date on it, and what are some of the tunes on there?
Yes, let me get the date pulled up. Sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
It is getting released next Friday, which is November the 14th. Sorry, I had to check. I didn't want to announce the wrong date. November the 14th. It is me singing on all the tracks, and it has it's kind of like a summary of where I'm from and where I intend to go. And I've put out 2 solo projects before, which I think, I did them more out of trying to experiment with putting out music and just learning that whole process.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those projects, the titles of them are in relation to Texas and the culture of Texas and the sounds of Texas that I experienced. And this project feels like a conclusion to all of that, and is like ending this curiosity about who I am and where I'm from, and giving the full version of myself so that I can move forward. There's a lot of all acoustic instruments. It's with the exception of the electric guitar and the pedal steel. It's got upright bass, or the electric guitar. It has upright bass, acoustic guitar, minimal drums, very simple drums. A lot of the inspiration for the drumming came from listening to Gillian Welsh. My soul journey is what I want this album to feel like.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite simple albums of all time. And I try to embody that in this. And it's my way of trying to get more comfortable with songwriting, A lot of my songs that I've written before, the form is just kind of, it's not as structured, but this has a little more structure. And sonically, this feels like more of an orchestral arrangement than
nice.
a simple, oh, here's a verse, here's a chorus, here's this. I put a lot of textures into it. So you'll hear a lot of layering of harmonies in the vocals. There's a lot of layering with the instrumentation, with the keyboards and the pedal steel and the electric guitar. It's a lot of beautiful experimentation with sonic textures.
Yeah, I enjoyed the cut of your version of "Gentle on My Mind." By the way, the great old John Hartford song that Glenn Campbell did, and I love your approach to it with honoring the song, honoring what came before it, but also putting your touch on it. I really appreciate what you did with that tune.
Oh, thank you. And a lot of that came from Bridget. I went into the studio and, I was just like, oh yeah, let's record. I want to do a cover of Gentle on My Mind. And Bridget had this brilliant idea of, she's like, all the versions I've listened to, they're very busy. And she's like, what if we found a way to have like a busyness about it, but it's open and super sparse? And she'd been listening to this record by this band called Osting Kaus, which is this Brazilian chorale ensemble, which is incredible. And she's like, what if we did something with that sort of texture? So the layering of the harmonies at the end, the samba groove, if you listen really closely, like the drum pattern is a derivative of a samba, and the style of guitar playing on that is all kind of inspired by this Brazilian group. And so a lot of the music on this album is like that too. It's like we take a concept, we take a simple like song pattern that we're accustomed to hearing, and how can we stretch it? How can we sound unfamiliar while also feel very familiar?
That is amazing. Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I encourage everyone to go out and listen to that ahead of the release. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's really good.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. And it's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that are dried upon sunlight. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on the columns now that bind me. Or something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiven when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory. For hours you're just gentle on my mind.
Well, I've had an absolute pleasure chatting with you. The new album releasing Friday, November 14th.
Friday, 14th, baby. I'm very excited.
I'm excited. I encourage everyone to go out and just listen to the new album, listen to everything that came before it. I promise you're going to be inspired. That's why we're sitting here talking. I was just like, man, I got to talk to this guy. I'm just such a fan of what you do and how you do it, and just carrying the torch for musicians to just broaden their horizons of what you play, man. You're an inspiring talent. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks for being interested in hearing my story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brad.
Yeah, thank you.